Well, this is just weird. Where's the face? Where's the random dib-dab in a car or in front of a bunch of extremely conspicuously placed books that's supposed to scream, look how smart I must be? Because they don't just let you walk into a shop and buy books without some sort of intelligence test, do they? But actually says to most people, look at all the perfectly good shelf space that could have been displaying all of your handheld games consoles, but is just wasted on stupid literature. Or is that just me? And yes, it's gotten bigger since last time. Send help. Or more handheld consoles. Yeah, that one.
I know that the last 2 weeks that we've been talking about evolution has been really tough for some of you.
Oh, okay, I get it. It's one of them. Let's pretend this is what's going on in the edumacations, but it am rang types of propaganda videos. What fun! Let's see just how far some down on their luck actors are willing to debase themselves for some Jesus bucks. At least that's how I'm going to think of them, because otherwise they think the stupid shit they're about to say is smart, and that's just fucking depressing.
I understand that some of you are raised in families that don't believe in evolution.
Alright, yeah, the some of them struggling bit. Well, me bucko, that's not actually a barrier to understanding actual science. That's the thing, lots of kids are raised in families full of idiots. But then they get out into the real world, discover, oh right, Uncle Dickhead isn't the smartest man in the known and conceivable universe, and actually come into their own as full, complete human beings who actually know things, and then have to make the fun decision to either put up with family functions and pretend that their grandmother's opinions on them, their foreigners, aren't the most ignorant, idiotic nonsense they have ever heard, or to have lots and lots and lots of heated debates with people who were never ever going to change their minds anyway, because they think being older than someone automatically means you fucking know everything. I don't envy them.
For religious reasons. But in my class, I try to teach you to think for yourself.
Ew, why would you do that? Also, I enjoyed the quoting for the religious reasons bit. Who the fuck does that? No science boy or athy guy I have ever met is that much of an arrogant twat. And I've met me. We know that they really do believe stupid shit for religious reasons. We know that they aren't just pretending that God is real. In fact, that's probably just projection on these guys' parts, since so many theists really do love to tell us that no, actually, you do believe in God, because the book that says God is real says you believe in him, and also that book says that it is telling the truth. Therefore, it must be the case. Why are you all laughing at me?
Are there any questions?
Sir, can I go to the toilet? I just shit myself because of how smart I am, and I need to go clean it up. Everyone in this class, probably.
No questions? Kayla, you've been unusually quiet. You always have challenges for me.
Always have challenges? I thought you were asking for questions. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a challenge as long as by challenge you actually mean that and not stupid fucking gotcha attempt. Also, this student sounds really, really annoying. Why would you remind them to be annoying? You almost got away with it, bro.
No, that's okay.
And then the video ends and she doesn't go on a stupid fucking smug rant for 3 sodding minutes. The end.
But I know there's a God. I felt him. You can't explain my entire faith away with just a couple of chapters from the science book.
What the fuck has that got to do with evolution? You couldn't feel God. Hell, you could even be right about there being a God, and that still wouldn't mean that evolution was somehow wrong. Or, and this is especially important, trying to explain away God. All the theory of evolution, you know, what would be in a science book, although the entirety of our understanding is more than a couple of fucking pages. A lot more, actually. But yeah, no, all it does is describe what we see happening in reality, specific to biology in its case. If that makes your book, though, sound dumb and wrong, I suggest you get a better book.
Mark, feelings can be compelling, but also very misleading. Now, I don't mind if you have faith in your God, but science doesn't require faith. It requires evidence.
Dear fellow atheists, this is how dipshit theists see you. Not the good ones who have brains, but the ones that are impossible to argue with. When you're saying something as reasonable as you can and just trying to explain what they're getting wrong, what they're seeing and hearing is you mocking God, and therefore them personally. Because of course they are the reasonable ones, and you just don't immediately convert to their smart boy ideas because of how much you hate the God that you pretend to not believe in.
Anyone else?
Well, it seems to me that that's just what's missing from the whole idea of evolution.
Well, it seems to me that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, mostly because you don't. The very notion that evidence is missing from evolution is the most ass-backwards take in all of history. So many theists seem to believe that the idea of evolution was just plucked out of thin air and just decided this how's the science now. But that's not how it works. It's a conclusion based on the evidence. Without evidence, we wouldn't have any of the scientific ideas we know to be true today. The only people who pluck answers out of the air for how things work are the people who wrote whatever book, though, you subscribe to in the place of knowing anything about reality. Ignorance is only bliss when it doesn't make you act like a fucking moron.
What's missing?
Evidence.
Yeah, sure. I really bought that read. Damn it. These aren't actors, are they? No one could be this hard up for money. There are types of porn that are less degrading than this shit, and they involve inflatable Sonic the Hedgehog puppets.
Evidence is missing. It just seems that it takes much more faith to believe in evolution than to believe in a designer.
Oh, wow. Frank Turek sure has changed a lot since I last saw him. You know, he looks really different when he's not wearing those weird fucking douchebag glasses. Huh? See? I knew he was talking just now.
Do you have any examples?
Well, how about when the textbook talks about the law of biogenesis? How life cannot come from non-life.
Oh look, something that isn't evolution. And do you know that if you made a life right now out of whole parts, complete and functional as it needed to be called life, the mechanics of evolution could and in fact would still entirely apply to that life form. The creation or lack thereof of living beings has absolutely zero effect on the fact that evolution is a thing that happens. And only a moron would argue against evolution without knowing that.
But then in the next chapter, it talks about how all life sprung from non-living material.
You know that's what your book says, right? I mean, sure, it's got some guy did it in there, but God made humans and animals from like the dust of the ground. That sounds awfully similar, but it's okay when Magic Guy do. But somehow an unbelievable leap when we have explanations of the mechanisms that could explain how that can happen without him. Sure thing, buddy.
And then it talks about mutation and natural selection and how it can change one animal into another, but mutation only loses information.
That's not really true now, is it? Mutation tends to change information, if you want to use the information paradigm. I mean, look at this. It's a big square of ones and zeros. Now, this could mean something. It could mean nothing. But let's assume that it's impossible to know. Now, let's change it. So, did we just gain or did we just lose information? That's right, we did neither. It simply changed because information is always the same amount unless you actively take some of it away, which in general, mutations, don't. Now, how about if it copies something? You can get this. But exactly how much information is that now? Is it double or is it the same? I don't know, but you know what it definitely isn't? Less information. And yet in genetics, copies of functions happen all the time. Now, of course, these aren't the only examples I could use, but considering a lot of mutations are kind of like this, and certainly not all of them would be, say, halving those numbers, but to act like this is the only thing that happens when mutations occur is to say hurdy-durdy, fliggity-nop, and tell me that that is the smartest thing you've ever said. I mean, okay, it probably would be, but still.
And natural selection can only choose from what's there.
Natural selection doesn't choose shit. And what's there is things like that an animal gets slightly taller and has an easier time reaching food, so is more likely to reproduce, making more of that apparently destroyed information. So it's going to make more of itself. This is like, tell me you don't know anything about evolution 101. Fuck me.
So how does a simple living organism turn into something like us? I mean, you have to think about, like, the complexity of the human eye and how we could never design something like that.
That is an assumption based on absolutely nothing. I mean, in simple terms, we are literally watching a thing that does exactly that. Yeah, not in the exact same way, but you said like that. And if a camera sensor doesn't do basically the same fucking job, I don't know what does. And if it isn't as complex as an eye, well, complexity doesn't mean good design, it just means complicated. So by your standards, we would have made something better and in a more simple fashion. Frankly, I just wouldn't bring up design if I were you, because you fuckers can't even design a good argument.
Or how the human body can heal itself.
You know, we know how that works, right? And humans have designed self-healing materials, and just because it's cool doesn't suddenly mean Magic Man must have did it. Also, the fact that humans don't have regeneration and instead basically scar over wounds shows better that evolution comes up with different ways to make a critter keep going. Because you're one perfect god, you'd think he would just have the best way to implement that shit, but no. And if you don't eat something with vitamin C in it, it literally stops working. That's basically what scurvy does to you. That's why calling British people limeys is basically like saying, haha, you're not going to die a slow and horrible death. Oh no.
I just don't understand how some half-pound insect-eating shrew that somehow dodged whatever killed the dinosaurs.
Well, first off,
I just don't understand.
That you fucking don't. And second, you make it sound like there was only one of them. No, the human species would have evolved from a prior species. Not simply one of them needed to survive some sort of extinction event. Loads of them did. Loads of different species got through that, as many had in others before. That is kind of the point, dumbass.
Could evolve from ape to ape man over millions of unseen years, and then poof, you have humans.
The fact that you described the slow process and then made it poof demonstrates pretty strongly that you cannot separate your magical explanations from real ones. There was no poof. Humans are still doing that slow evolution. It's still happening. And unseen? Well, even if so fucking what? You cannot see something and still know what happened. You know the evolution that you guys says doesn't exist? Even though it fucking does? That's how we know it happened. You dunce.
If evolution were true, we'd have millions of in-between creatures running around everywhere, right?
We do actually. They are called all the creatures that currently exist, you fucking moron. All animals are transitional forms. All trees are transitional forms. All bacteria and flies and anything else that is alive today has predecessors and will have descendants, all of which go from slightly to extremely different from them, assuming that their species continues long enough into the future. But I do know what you really mean, even though you're too stupid to express the idea, that all transitions should exist as well, even though you just used the idea that explains why that isn't the case. They went extinct, the same way creationists would if they didn't have the rest of society's coattails to drag us all down with while they ride them, benefiting from the science that they are incapable of fucking doing, let alone understanding.
And all of the in-between fossils could fit in the back of my Prius.
Aside from the fact that, again, all fossils, like all creatures alive today, are transitional. So you must have a mighty big Prius. I'm picturing the Ark Experience, but in white with a Honda logo. And you know, the fact that you said there are any completely dunks on the thing you said at the start, that there is no evidence. So was that just a lie? Or do you not know what the phrase "there is no evidence" means? I assume you think it's an automatically win argument phrase because people say it to you every time you make any claim whatsoever, because you don't have any fucking evidence for even having a goddamn brain.
And you know what else? I just don't understand
Anything. We already established this.
How all of this started. I mean, you say that science doesn't rely on faith, but evolution requires faith.
You know, you gotta love that social media posting of someone making a fool out of themselves and thinking that they're making a really good point. Also, no faith required. Conclusions that stem from evidence only require for you to think that the evidence is like real, and you can test that shit, so really not even that. Also, the faith and bad argument is never a good position to take when faith is literally a big part of of your position.
Faith that everything just burst out of nothing, that gas clouds collapsed and turned into stars, and
We don't need faith for understanding fucking star formation, you clod. And whether everything came from nothing is again nothing to do with evolution. Evolution makes zero claims on that front. So bringing it up is so staggeringly pointless, I can only assume it's about as sharp as your wit.
all this stuff just collided around the sun to create planets, including Earth, that is just the right distance away from the sun to sustain life.
If the Earth was the wrong distance away from the sun to support life, then there wouldn't be any life. Like, seriously. I'll tell you what would be a miracle, and you guys love your miracles. If the Earth was somewhere in the wrong place to sustain life, and yet all the things were here, that would make some kind of higher power at least a bit more fucking plausible.
It requires faith to believe that living organisms, created male and female, crawled out of the water and then magically became land-dwelling animals, which then became humans.
First off, magic is your thing. Change over time would obviously make things change over time. And semi-aquatic animals exist today, idiot. Also, sexual dimorphism is a really helpful evolutionary trait. It just is. It's really good for making more variants of a species that can make even more varied copies of themselves. It is completely unsurprising that it would turn up. Also, if you think they went from exclusively self-replicating to exclusively sexual reproduction, then you are even more stupid than you sound. And I'm not gonna lie, you do sound like a fucking idiot.
All without intelligence or design?
Yep, but only if you know what you're talking about.
I just think
Liar.
it takes a lot more faith to believe in evolution than it does to believe that all the design, marvelous design around us points to a designer.
You don't think that, you were told that, and now you're just regurgitating it because you haven't bothered to actually challenge the idea by actually learning anything about evolution. I would say because you don't listen in class, but considering how conspicuously silent the teacher character has been, he's even dumber than you assholes and merely spent all semester shouting, "Evolution real, goddamn fake." Although then again, I'm not teaching that class, so...
And now I'm just rambling.
You have been rambling the whole time, dipshit.
So does anyone else have a question?
I'm not sure, but did she even ask any questions? I'm pretty certain that was just a bunch of long debunked creationist talking points. And is the rest of the class actually going to ask something like, I don't know, what the f*** is wrong with you, moron? You do this every week, and when shown all the evidence, you start singing la 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 with your fingers in your ears? Can you please stop? That'd be nice.
Stand strong in your faith. Visit debunkevolution.com.
If the arguments on your websites are the same as the ones being vomited out by this child, I really wouldn't bother, unless you really need to sound like a colossal fuckwit. I'm sorry, I meant creationist. Same thing.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was gonna tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the